Hello, this is Sun Tzu for On Gamers, and I'm here with Realz from Team Mana Grind. He went 4-0 in his groups yesterday, and how was that for you? Like, you actually you played all those games, and not a single one of them was up on the stream, up on the stream. So, how was that for you, and how do you feel about that sort of situation?
Well, none of my games got shown live, but I don't think it's so bad because some of the other players that will be in the elimination now won't know anything about my decks. I only had to play one deck anyways, so maybe it didn't matter. I would have rather been on stream, but it's not that bad.
Okay. Also, how do you feel like about the field here? Who are you sort of most nervous about facing in the playoffs?
Well, the decks that I chose mostly for my group. My main goal was to hopefully make it out of my group. I wanted to at least make it to the top 8. I'm from California, and this is a very expensive trip for me. And if I didn't make it to the top 8, I would have gotten no return. So now that we're going into the elimination rounds, my decks are not necessarily catered to everything. What I don't want to see is other people who are also playing Handlock, which is I am, because the best deck that I have against Handlock is Handlock. So I don't have anything that really counters it very well, and so anyone who's playing that, I don't know what we'll see in the groups here.
Okay. Now you're with Team Mana Grind, and you have one of these really expansive rosters. You've got the NA and the EU. How does Mana Grind differ from your normal 4-man teams? You feel more like a family almost.
Yeah, Mana Grind has a large community, and there's the players and then also other people who do other things. Here at the event, Trollden is here. You know, he's kind of just hanging out, but you know, he's got the big YouTube channel and got this big following, and he's a really cool guy, and you know, he really loves the game, and it's really fun to be around him too. Mana Grind, you know, we have, like you said, the NA and the EU side. I really like my NA side teammates. Pretty much all of them are really strong, and you know, I can't wait until there's events that they can actually, you know, show something in. It might have to wait until the Blizzard regionals, but I really like the NA side especially. Our players are just insanely good, and I enjoy, you know, being able to hang out with them and talk to them and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I remember when you first sort of made your splash on the scene in the King of the Hill series, you were playing a lot of decks that came from that Mana Grind group, from like Chucky and other people. And do you think that sort of drawing on that wide base of people trying to tweak these decks and building decks, does that give Mana Grind players an edge going into these tournaments?
It definitely can. A lot of the things, you know, the finer card choices in decks that I've made have been something that I've, you know, borrowed from or made my own refinements of one of the Mana Grind decks. And, you know, eventually they all get out there, you know, super public. Kalento especially, you know, everything that he does is just out there. But he's been really good at, you know, designing decks for different metagames. And then, you know, I guess it is a small advantage at least. But other teams are really strong too, so not that big.
Okay. Now you seemed really comfortable in that King of the Hill setting where you could spend your time really analyzing your opponents, figuring out what they're going to play, and just countering them so hard. Do you feel like that you're better off in a format where you really know who you're going to play, as opposed to this sort of, where for example the playoffs are randomized, so you're a bit in the unknown here?
Yeah, absolutely. It is a lot more unknown. Anything could happen. You know, I hope that, you know, I get good draws and get good luck, and that I play well, and that I get good opponents who my decks match up well against theirs. I really do like those, you know, big, long best-of-7 series. Those are really fun. And although I have lost them before, I feel like even when I've lost, I had a really good chance. going in, and that I had a good plan. This being thrown into the unknown, anything could happen. I think it makes for really good games though, because you can't look at the match ahead of time and look at people's decks and say, oh, well, I think I have an idea of what's going to happen. Here, anything could happen, and that's kind of cool.
Indeed. We've also seen this sort of resurgence of the freeze mage recently. You used to be a real big fan of the heavy freeze control mage. What are your thoughts on the new freeze mage, and how does it sort of compare in your mind to the old one?
Well, the new freeze mage is actually the closest to the old freeze mage before people even started playing giants. And it's something that I played way back then, and it's my favorite class and my favorite deck in the game by far. I'm not playing it in this tournament, and the reason why I'm not playing it is because I didn't think that it would match up as well in my group. There are 2 and maybe even 3 players who were in my group besides me, who I thought might play Warrior, and then almost everyone in this tournament, not everyone, but almost everyone is playing Druid. Those are both bad matchups. Warrior especially is unwinnable. So the only reason to play it is if you are expecting people to play things that it directly counters, like a lot of Miracle Rogue. Aggro Rogue is more 50-50, but a lot of Miracle Rogue and a lot of Warlock, any kind of Warlock. Those are the good matchups, and Shaman is a good matchup as well. Those are the things you play Freeze Mage for, and I didn't think my group would have a lot of that. I was right, but it's still a strong deck. I really like where the deck sits in the metagame right now, but playing it in a tournament setting is very much a metagame call, and there's a little bit of risk involved, and I wasn't willing to take the risk. The deck that I played instead is actually the one that I 4-0'd with yesterday, so far I'm glad that I made the choice not to play Freeze, even though I love it to death.
Okay. Also, one of the sort of key cards in that kind of Freeze Mage style is the Alexstraza. How do you feel about that card? Like, we saw, for example, against Reynad, Daniel Sitten, the fact that he chose to play that Alexstraza, the temptation to put it out on that turn 9, it actually ended up costing him the game because Reynad, he had nothing to combat Reynad's lethal that turn. How do you feel about Alexstraza in the current meta? Is it straight up a potentially game-losing card?
A game-losing card?
Yeah.
It's like any other large drop in the game. If you want to compare it to, Ragnaros or Ysera, there's a chance that they just don't do anything. They don't win the game for you the instant they're played. They win the game for you later. And it's, if you're really far behind, it's not going to catch you up. But I don't think that means that it's a game-losing card. It's just the same as any of those other cards, that it doesn't automatically win every time you play it, no matter what. And I mean, that's a good thing and a bad thing. It means that you can't rely on it to automatically win you the game, but it's still a ridiculously powerful card. It has applications both offensively and defensively. It's probably my favorite card in the game just because it has such a powerful warping effect that can turn the game completely on its head, in the blink of an eye. So I don't think it's a game-losing card. Even the game that Daniel lost to Reynad, he got countered by the card Flare, and that's a card that the deck can't beat. And Reynad drew 2, and he got to play 1 for value and then save the other 1 for when he had lethal. There's literally nothing Daniel could have done, and that's not Alexstraza's fault. That's the card Flare.
Okay. You also talked about the Druid deck that seems to be going so well right now. Why do you feel it's so strong? What's sort of the how is it countering sort of what other people are bringing to this tournament right now?
I don't think it's countering a lot of things. There's not much that it directly counters. The real reason why people are playing so much of it in this format, this is a format where you bring 3 decks, but you only end up playing 2 of them. Druid is something that doesn't get countered really, but it also doesn't really counter anything. It's a very safe deck. It's very powerful, it's explosive, it's also consistent, and it can beat anything with a good draw and punishes bad draws from the opponent. So if you ever lose game 1, you can fall back on Druid and maybe win 2 in a row. If you want to like take a risk and think that you're going to play something that counters theirs in game 1, you have something really consistent to fall back on. It's just hard not to play. It has almost at least 40%, even in its worst matchup. So Druid it's just really, really consistent, really versatile, like a very powerful deck that can win against almost anything.
Okay. Well, I think that's going to be about it for us. This has been Sun Tzu for On Gamers. Keep watching.